Hi, this is Jim from Trek World. In 2005, CBS remastered the entire Star Trek original series using 2K high-resolution scans of the original 35mm film for each episode, complete with new color balances, advanced image processing, and most importantly, all of the old-fashioned optical effects that were used in the series back in the 60s were updated with the very latest state-of-the-art computer graphic imaging. Well, at least it was state-of-the-art in 2005. Today, 17 years later, let's just say it's a bit long in the tooth. So join me after the break as we continue our video series examining the original 1960s era special effects used to film the USS Enterprise. Please be sure to check out these other popular Trek World videos when you're finished watching this one. Also, if you hit that little like button under the screen for me right now, you will be helping YouTube to show this video to more people and give them a chance to discover these unique and fascinating videos as well. Now, before we get started, I have a special treat for you. As a member of the first generation of Trekkies, Star Trek looked like this to me when I was growing up. Each episode had been sent to the local stations in rolls of 16mm color film. When combined with the low resolution of early analog television, the Enterprise appeared very much like what you see here. If you had a VCR in the 1970s, this is what you would have recorded as you made your own tapes of Star Trek. So now that you've been reminded of exactly how poor quality the original TV episodes were in syndication, we can all appreciate the DVD clips that we're going to be looking at all the more. Now, before we start reviewing the special effects shots used to film the Enterprise for Season 1, let's take a quick look at the shots of the 11-foot model that were actually used to make the Season 1 title credits. Notice that the only shot in the credits that uses the actual production model is the one in the lower left-hand clip that I've marked as Season 1. You can tell this because the nacelles are actually lit up. The other two came from the second pilot. Everything else in the Season 1 credits was footage taken of the 3-foot model. We've already done that shot library. I'm going to put it right up here on the top right-hand corner here so that you can watch it after the video. So welcome to Season 1. Once they got the order from NBC to produce the series, Gene asked for another round of modifications to the 11-foot model. They removed the big lighted window from the top of the saucer, and they made a few alterations that makes it very easy for us to identify which version of the model was used when we look at an effect shot. One, they replaced the painted-on vents on the back of the nacelles with small spherical protrusions. Two, they reduced the size of the deflector dish. Three, they put spinning lights into the nacelles' front caps. That's the money shot, ladies and gentlemen. That was the big update here. For those of you interested in how that was done, take a quick look at the top right photo, and you will see what those lights looked like without the plastic domes. They used Christmas tree lights and a small spinning armature that was originally designed for animating merchandise in department store display windows. So the first episode of Season 1 to actually introduce this new footage that they had just filmed was the Corbomite maneuver. It happened to be the third episode in production. And they actually introduced to us 5 new library shots. The first of which is a simple shot of the Enterprise standing still in space. The first time we see this was obviously in the Corbomite maneuver like you see here, and the Enterprise is being held at bay by a spinning space buoy. The shot was also used in Who Mourns for Adonis, where the spectral hand of Apollo grips the ship. In Balance of Terror, the shot would be used several times, including once where the shot was tilted counterclockwise to represent the Enterprise being damaged by that unknown plasma weapon that the Romulans were using. And finally, she would be shown simply sitting still in Arena and Journey to Babel. Now, the next clip we're going to look at is a shot of the Enterprise firing her phasers. As you will see, they really had an issue trying to standardize what weapons on the Enterprise looked like. In this case, the phasers were a simple red beam. Now, in Balance of Terror, they hadn't thought of photon torpedoes yet, but they wanted to have something that could go off like a depth charge. So they invented a weapon that was only used twice in the entire series, and they called it proximity phasers, shown here as some kind of pulsing energy weapon. In addition to Balance of Terror, it also showed up in Errand of Mercy, then was never seen again. And here in Arena, the 20th episode that they had filmed, we see the shot being used again, but this time for photon torpedo firing, although it's fired from the same location that the phasers were. They changed the consistency and the color of the beam one more time. They returned to red standard phasers in the 34th episode film, Who Mourns for Adonis, this time showing the ship shooting phasers down on a planet while the Enterprise sits still in space. Now, the third shot they created for the Corbomite maneuver was the first real heavy-duty shot that they would continue to use a lot. In fact, it actually appeared in 20 additional episodes. The whole idea behind here was, of course, a flyby sequence that showed off the lighted nacelles rather than the wooden ones with a spike on it that we were seeing everywhere else up to this point. Now, the fourth shot they created for the Corbomite maneuver was a one-shot. They never used it again. Basically, it was a fixed shot of the 11-foot model composited against a zoom-in on the Fesarius. Some people may believe this is the 3-foot model, but they would be mistaken, because you can clearly see the lights on the model, and the 3-foot model never had any lighting. Now, shot 5 is another utility shot. It's a view over the starboard nacelle. It is sometimes used with an optical breakaway that you see here, where the ship veers towards port. They used it a total of 18 times before they replaced it later in the series with another shot. Now, the fourth episode that they filmed was Mudd's Women, and in addition to 3 beautiful women, it also gave us 4 beautiful shots, and they would be used in a lot of episodes after this. In fact, these 4 shots from Mudd's Women made the vast majority of appearances of the Enterprise throughout the television series. Now, this orbit away from us should be no surprise to you that this is probably the second most used shot in Star Trek. They used it in a total of 58 episodes. Now, this is another orbit, but this time instead of orbiting away from us, they are orbiting around the planet towards us. This is the most used shot in Star Trek history. It's the only shot of the production version of the Enterprise that ever appeared in any opening credits, and they removed it after the first season, thereby removing the only footage that had ever been filmed of the production model in any of the Star Trek credits. They used this in 58 episodes, very much the way that they did Orbit Away. The reason, however, that this is by far the most popular one is they had used it multiple times in each episode, resulting in a total of a whopping 112 times, excluding its appearance in the Season 1 credits. So this shot I tend to refer to as pass under, and as you can take a look at it, you can clearly see what it's doing. The Enterprise is coming towards us and will pass slightly overhead. These 4 shots that we just saw contributed in more Star Trek episodes than any other films that were done before or after in the Star Trek TV series. So how appropriate is it that an episode that contains the word terror in its name would produce a clip that would be used 13 times in Star Trek? In Balance of Terror, we're given a new shot that was really different from anything we had seen up to this point. Basically, it is a side starboard profile picture of the Enterprise as she slowly veers to the port side and departs away from us. So for the Galileo 7, they filmed one additional scene that they needed. It's a small clip that shows the Enterprise at full stop, but this time at an angle and slowly turning to port until it's in complete profile. They also used it in Tomorrow is Yesterday. So next up is a shot from the Alternative Factor, which was the 20th episode to be filmed. It's a single shot shown from behind the ship. They would only use this one time before they would choose a different rear shot to replace it. So now the 21st episode ever filmed was Tomorrow is Yesterday, and in that they actually gave us 3 new shots. Now, the first of which is the side profile, showing the Enterprise climbing through the atmosphere. Now, there's a lot of confusion when people watch this episode. They actually used both the 3-foot and the 11-foot models in these shots. Only the side profile shot was the 11-foot model. You can clearly see that the lights are flashing. The 3-foot model had no lights. Any other shot of the Enterprise against this blue sky that was not a side profile shot, but was in fact an angled shot, was of the 3-foot model. Now, I'm sure this probably happened more than once, but in my notes I thought it was sort of interesting. This next shot is a little bit unusual. It was cut from a longer shot that had been filmed in support of Space Seed. But because Space Seed aired after Tomorrow Was Yesterday, you actually ended up seeing this clip in Tomorrow Was Yesterday before you end up seeing it in the episode that it was filmed for. Now, the third shot to come out of Tomorrow Was Yesterday is very close to the full stop clip that we saw a few minutes ago, except this time the ship is bouncing around in the shot. Now, this was probably created by moving the image optically, because trying to jerk the model or the camera, which was fixed on tracks, by the way, really wasn't practical. And now the 22nd episode filmed was Return of the Archons. Once again, they filmed yet another shot at the Enterprise flying by the camera, but in this shot, they don't actually really pass us by. Instead, the deflector dish zooms straight up to the camera and then cuts. They used this in 8 episodes total. Okay, so as we move up to Space Seed, this is perhaps the most complicated shots that were ever filmed for the original series. Not only did they need new shots of the Enterprise, but they needed shots which had both the Enterprise and the Botany Bay in the same film frame, since the cost and time of optically compositing the Botany Bay with existing footage was prohibitive. Remember that back in the mid-1960s, the most advanced thing you could do was optical compositing, putting the two images together like a double exposure, and it was very time-consuming. So as you can see by all of these photos, they put both models on the same stage and filmed them all at the same time. This is the only time that I'm aware of that the 11-foot model was actually filmed with another model physically present in the same frame. And after all that work, they ended up creating 4 new shots for the series. All 4 actually came out really nice even by today's standards. The first one is a simple shot of the Enterprise simply pulling up beside the Botany Bay. Now, it almost might look like the Enterprise is docking with the Botany Bay, but it's not. It's coming up beside it. They never really explain why the Enterprise had to be so close to the Botany Bay when all they were going to do was beam people back and forth. Perhaps it needed to be that close for them to actually use the tractor beam to tow it. Now, this is quite similar to the earlier shot where we had the Enterprise at full stop and slowly turning to port, but this time we see both the Enterprise and the Botany Bay turning together slowly. Now, this is a very unique shot. The Botany Bay is actually bobbing up and down slowly beside the Enterprise. I mentioned a few moments ago that you probably couldn't shake the camera or shake the 11-foot model to create that wobble or bouncy effect, but with the Botany Bay being as small as it was, they were able actually to make the Botany Bay bounce around while they were filming the scene. Okay, now this is basically a similar shot to the first one we reviewed, except in this case, the Enterprise is pulling away from the Botany Bay. Okay, the 29th episode film, Operation Annihilate. So they created another flyby shot, but one whose speed is faster than the traditional flyby, but is still slow enough that the ship doesn't just become a blur the way it does in the credits. They only used it one more time in the Tholian web. But this is the same shot that has the distinction of also appearing years later in a major motion picture. This is the same shot that Shatner sees through the periscope in Airplane 2. Okay, we have made it to the end of yet another video presentation. I want to thank you very much for the time that you've spent with us. Please be sure to check out these videos on our channel before you leave. And also, if you haven't already yet, please hit that like button under the video so that YouTube will show this video to more people and give them an opportunity to join us. Until then, live long and prosper.